if somebody gets into a car wreck while under the influence, obviously running away from the scene is probably the worst thing you can do. But what is your advice to John as it stands right now, obviously with the limited knowledge that you have?
Well, he violated the first and second Cogdell law firm rules post-arrest. Number one, he didn't shut the fuck up. And number two, he posted on social media about it. So to directly answer your question, if you're involved in an accident, do not leave, do not flee, do not threaten. Once the police are called or if the police arrive, tell them you have contacted your lawyer or you wish to speak with your lawyer and you do not want to talk to them. A, invoke your right to counsel. B, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I think that's really important advice for John to hear because he's in the middle of like a lot of problems. I know, Tommy, you're a fight fan. What are your thoughts on John retiring and just kind of all of this like aftermath?
This is insane. This reminds me of the case that you were talking about last episode where you defended a cop that was a DUI during the job. And then you finished that clip that we posted on your page that he did get acquitted. And I guess a lot of comments are like, how is that possible? Can you speak on that? How can somebody drive drunk and then get acquitted for?
Well, it's the state's requirement to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they had lost the normal use of their mental or physical faculties by the reason of introduction of alcohol into their system. So it's either loss of normal use or above a .08 or whatever the breath limit is or blood limit is. DWI cases are generally pretty defensible because you can't always know what the person's normal use of their mental or physical faculties are. So how can you prove that they lost the normal use of their mental or physical faculties? Thing number two is, some of the field sobriety tests, I couldn't do them. Mary Lou Retton in her best day couldn't do some of those things. They're ridiculously complicated. Juries understand that. Thing number three is oftentimes the blood or breath experts that the state calls have gaping holes in either their qualifications or their experience or their protocol in this particular case. So DWI cases, I don't want to say they're easy to defend, but there are defenses available to DWI cases all the time. What blows me away, Tommy, is guys like Jones. Why are you driving? God, that's why God made Ubers for friggin' sake. I don't understand why people risk everything they have when they have means like he has. I don't get it.
Yeah, John's a heavyweight champion, millionaire. I think the UFC offered him $30 million to fight the current interim champ, a guy named Tom Aspinall. Tom's like a young, up-and-coming, like really threatening fighter, and I think John doesn't want a loss on his resume, so he kind of like respectfully declined and didn't want to take the money. But he definitely has money, and he seems to get himself into these situations. It's a very like problematic, it's like he's like the Michael Jordan of the UFC. So it's like someone of that stature making mistakes like this, honestly, makes no sense.
So would you say, I know you don't take DWI cases anymore, but would you say that in general it's a pretty easy case for you to get it acquitted?
I have an associate that handles those cases, and B, are they usually defensible? Sure. I'm not encouraging anyone to consume alcohol and get behind the wheel, but a good DWI lawyer can get you acquitted more often than not. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Back in my day, back when Dirt was young and my family pet was a dinosaur, the only offer a state could make under the statutes was probation, right? The only thing a judge those days was going to give you on a first offense DWI was probation. So why the hell wouldn't you try the case? In the words of Bob Dylan, when you got nothing to lose. They were offering you probation. Even if you lost the case and went to the judge for punishment, he was going to give you probation. So I literally tried hundreds of DWI cases because I had nothing to lose. And it was wonderful experience for me and anybody else that practiced during that generation, because I found out what worked and what didn't work. I worked for a great lawyer, but when I tried to be Racehorse Haynes, it failed miserably. I had to find out who I was and what worked for me. These days you can get pretrial diversion. These days you can get deferred. These days you can get all kinds of soft resolutions that simply weren't available back then. So I think there are fewer DWIs being tried now because there's a softer landing path than was available back then. But there's a lot of good DWI lawyers out there. There's a lot of good lawyers, including myself, that grew up trying DWI cases because they're a fertile ground for accusation, hence a fertile ground for defense.
That's awesome.
Dan, you mentioned that these tests that they put you through when you do get pulled over are kind of like unfeasible even to someone who could be sober. Do you have advice for somebody who does get pulled over to handle that with the cops? Like, what are they supposed to do?
You know, I used to say, if you've had more than 2 or 3 drinks, don't try the field sobriety test. If you've only had 2 or 3 drinks, you know, maybe you should try the field sobriety test. I would never advise a client, if they're stopped for suspicion of driving while intoxicated, the only thing that I would advise a client to do is tell the officer, I want to talk to my lawyer. I don't wish to answer your questions. I want to talk to my lawyer. Will that guarantee him an arrest? Probably. But here's what. He or she was going to be arrested anyway. People always think, well, I can talk my way out of this. And particularly if they've been consuming alcohol, they think, oh, man, I got to hold my beer, watch this, literally. That's where their mind goes. And it doesn't work. If you're stopped for DWI, you're going to get stuffed and cuffed. You're going to have a free night's rent and a lovely meal prepared for you at the county's expense. Just get the fuck over it and ask for a lawyer.
Aaron, if you could pull up this clip, either on TikTok, it's I don't know if it's from a show.
Yeah,
or if
I'm
it's
literally
from
thinking
the
exactly
same
what
one.
you're thinking. I know exactly. It's Reno 911.
It's Reno
911.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pulled
my
over.
God. I need you to react to this because this is so funny.
Oh, hell.
So there's a little more to that clip, but is that kind of a fair assessment of what kind of it's like?
It's obviously a little embellished, but the point of it is the idea that someone is expected to be able to perform an exercise or a regime that they've never performed before in their life at night on the side of the road with lights in their face, with cars going by, is absurd. I get the idea that there should be field sobriety tests, and some have been recognized and some have been not, and the officer should be trained, and I understand that. But how in the world can we expect somebody to, you know, accurately perform a test that they've never performed at all under the stress of being pulled over late night, consuming alcohol or not consuming alcohol, lights in their face, cars going by? The whole idea of it, to me, to base somebody's guilt or innocence on something like that is fucking absurd.